I've been writing this book, and it's sort of painfully true stories from my life. And so I've been calling some people who I grew up with to kind of verify some of the stories. And I called this girl who I had a big crush on in 7th grade named Lisa Bizzetti. And she was way out of my league, but I could make her laugh. She had to talk to me on the phone every night, thanks to alphabetical order, to talk about homework. And one time I said something that made her laugh. And I was like, this is good. Like, I got to do that more. And then one time I said something that made her laugh, and she was laughing so hard, and she goes, Mike, you gotta stop. I'm gonna pee myself. And I was like, wow. That was the closest I had ever come to a vagina. So I spent the next 15 years trying to get Lisa Bizzetti to pee. And that's how I ended up here on stage. And that's how we all ended up here, in a sense. 7th grade was a really hard year because it was that year where people started making out with each other, and I was just bewildered by this. I remember just being like, people we know are making out with other people we know? But how? It just seemed like this alien ritual where these two aliens kind of attach orifices all of a sudden. I was just like, I am not doing that. And collectively, all the girls in my class were like, that is fine. You're not on the list. But then, it started to kind of split the class up into two distinct groups, kind of the makeout club and the non-makeout club. I mean, these were informal organizations. Of course, that would be very sad. I call this meeting of the non-makeout club to order. First order of business, Nintendo. Second order of business, cures for acne. Third order of business, why doesn't anyone like us? Meeting adjourned. It was a tough group to be a part of because our numbers were dwindling and we were losing good guys by the day. And I feared that soon I would be the lone member of the non-makeout club. And so I was like, I got to get into the makeout club. But I didn't have any real candidates, Like, I had a big crush on Lisa Bizzetti. And so one time I built up the courage to ask her to go to the carnival with me. And she said yes. And I was really excited. In my mind, I had this fantasy, it'll be like in a romantic comedy montage, we'll go to the thing, and then I'll win her a giant stuffed bear, and we'll go on some rides, and then we'll make out, and it'll take like a minute and a half, And we went to the carnival. We went on a ride called the Scrambler. I don't know if you have the Scrambler here in Canada. I imagine you do. It travels on a truck. It's a very mobile scrambling unit. The premise is that you sit on a two-person pod with the person you're in love with, and then that pod goes in a circle, which is part of an even larger circle, which is part of an even grander circle. As I understand it, it was originally designed as a medical device for constipated patients. It was called the Shitzer Pantserator, and it was very successful, and then it was co-opted by the Carnival Workers of America, QOA, I don't know if you're familiar, and they said, we like it, but we feel like the name is something of a turnoff. And then one guy goes, what about the I think I'm gonna diarator? And they're like, that's good, because it gets across the essence of how you feel when you're on the machine, plus it has the added wordplay with diarrhea, which is a nice homage to the original intention of the machine. But we still feel like the name is something of a turnoff. And then one guy goes, what about the Scrambler? And they're like, nailed it, but who is gonna be in charge of this dangerous piece of equipment? And this one guy goes, well, I have a nephew who's 16 years old and smokes pot 24 hours a day. I feel like he might be available. And they're like, he sounds amazing. We don't even need to interview him. He sounds completely qualified. And so I sit down on the Scrambler, and I know from the moment they put the bar seatbelt down that I am gonna throw up for sure. The bar seatbelt is not a very reassuring piece of safety equipment. That's not a Ralph Nader approved item. That's never saved anyone's life. I think the only thing it's ever done is in a scrambler accident, it's just kind of held someone's esophagus down to the pavement, making sure that they are dead and that they cannot talk about the scrambler accident. But I'm still hopeful, I'm like, Lisa's snuggling up to me and I'm thinking, maybe this is where it's all gonna happen, this is very special. But I think that when you're 12 years old, you just don't understand certain things about the digestive system. Like you don't know that you shouldn't eat popcorn and peanuts and funnel cake and cotton candy and then go on a machine that scrambles your body. Cotton candy being the most insane of these items. It's basically like saying, we're gonna take sugar, which everyone knows is bad, but then we'll dress it up like insulation. And I'm like, I'm not sure what the selling point is there. Is it the sugar or the insulation? I'm like, we already sold it. So I know they put the bar seat belt down, I'm gonna throw up. And I even say to the 16-year-old stoner, I'm like, hey, actually, and then he was gone. Apparently, he doesn't enjoy the second halves of sentences. And so then I'm scrambling, and I'm thinking, I need to come up with a plan of some kind. And my first plan was that I just wouldn't look at Lisa and I wouldn't look at any other people. So I'm like, don't look at Lisa, don't look at any other people. Don't look at Lisa, don't look at any other people. I need a new plan. And the new plan was that I needed to tell the scrambler operator that he needed to stop the ride. But the mathematics of the scrambler are such that the window of opportunity in which one can communicate with the scrambler operator is a very limited window. So I'm like, I gotta tell the guy to stop the ride. I gotta tell the guy to stop the ride. I gotta tell the guy to stop the ride. Please stop the ride, and then I'm back. The third time I said, please stop the, and then I started throwing up. And it was not unlike an oscillating lawn sprinkler. Just popcorn and peanuts and insulation, really insulating the pavement with my homemade carnival salsa. And I did not look at Lisa, but I'm pretty sure she was staring at me. And we did not make out. I did not lose my mouth virginity that evening, but I called Lisa, like as an adult and everything. And I'm telling her this story and she's laughing, and it's really exciting to have this moment where we're laughing. And I'm not sure, but I'd like to think that she peed herself. I do a lot of strange shows. You have to be delicate with different audiences about different things. I performed at a Christian college recently. It was actually in a giant gymnasium, and there was like a 30-foot crucifix on the wall, and I thought that was funny because I was thinking, like, if Jesus were there, what would he say? Like, use the elliptical, because I think about Jesus all the time. I was raised Catholic, and they teach it to you when you're so young. You're 7, and they're like, there's this guy Jesus, and he loves you, and you love him too, right? And you're like, wait, do I know this guy? And they're like, oh yeah, there's this guy Jesus who everybody loves because he loves everybody. A long time ago, he died, and it's not totally your fault. So don't be scared or sad because he's in heaven now with his dad, who's also God, and there's this other thing called the Holy Spirit that no one understands. And all three of these things are a cluster that is staring at you all the time. If you have any questions, just pop into that strange broom closet in the corner with Father Steve, who no one's done a background check on. And don't forget to mention if you've been masturbating, because he's fascinated by that. And angry, but mostly fascinated. And it starts innocently enough, as innocently as man-boy love can start. You accept there's this guy Jesus, and he's dead, and he's bleeding, but he's in great shape. And I really loved church when I was a kid. My favorite part was the hymns. We'd sing this one that goes, Christ has died, Christ is risen, Christ will come again. It's a classic, right? It's lyrically very concise. You got Christ, he's the protagonist. He died, which is sad, and then he's risen, which is unexpected. And then he'll come again, which, I don't know if I'm rooting for that part. I feel like, thanks for coming. We appreciate the books. But I don't know if we want Jesus to come again. If he comes again, he's gonna be so mad. He's gonna be like, I don't understand. How come these people are so rich and these people are so poor? Because he's Jewish. You know, he'd have sort of a Jewish affect. And so I'm talking about all this on stage at the Christian College Gymnasium. And it is not connecting, you know. And after the show, it was really sort of awkward between me and this guy who booked me backstage. He was just like, why would you talk about Jesus for 10 minutes? On stage, I didn't have the best answer, but it's good enough to share with you. I said, Jesus died so I could tell those jokes. I'm always trying to understand what people are sensitive about, you know. I was on an airplane recently and I was eating a chicken salad sandwich on walnut raisin bread. And flight attendant came over and he goes, excuse me, are there nuts in your sandwich? I knew this wasn't gonna end well. Because that sentence never ends with, because I love nuts! Like, nuts, 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 nuts! They're great and everything! Sprinkle them on your sundae. They're the building blocks of pesto, which they are, and nobody's talking about it. So as I responded, I just kept eating the sandwich. I was like, I think that there might be walnuts in the bread. And he goes, actually, you can't eat that on the plane because the woman seated by the window has a nut allergy. I won't feed them to her or rub them on her face. Actually, she'll have a reaction even if there are nuts in the air. Nuts in the air? Which just so happens to be my favorite hip-hop album. I tried to be respectful. I said to the woman, I go, are you serious? Like, you'll have a reaction if there are nuts in the air? She goes, yeah, I'll have a reaction if there are nuts in the air. And I said, you shouldn't leave the house. There are nuts everywhere. I was so hungry. I said to the flight attendant, is there anywhere where I can finish my sandwich? Because you can finish it in the bathroom. And I go, okay. And I walked into a JetBlue bathroom. I'm eating a chicken salad sandwich. And I'm gagging, and I'm eating more of the sandwich. I'm gagging, and I'm eating more of the sandwich. I realized at that moment that I have what is called a fecal airspace allergy. And it isn't just if I eat feces. It is if the feces are in the air. If the feces are in the air, I'll have a reaction. Well, you know who doesn't like this joke? Are people with nut allergies. And you know who does like this joke? Is everyone else. And I feel conflicted about that, you know, because there's like 500 of us in this room right now, and 497 of us are like, ha ha, nuts in the air. And then 3 of us secretly are like, that's my life. And I don't want to be that to you, but jokes have to be about something. I told that story in San Francisco, and this kid came up to me after the show, he was probably about 15, and he asked me if I would sign his EpiPen. Because he has a nut allergy. If he has a reaction, his mom has to spike him in his leg so he doesn't die. I was really moved by this. I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like, this kid has this life-threatening situation, and he's comfortable laughing about it. And I said to his mom, I go, how many times have you had to spike him? And she said, 3 times. I thought, wow. This guy almost died 3 times so I could tell that joke. The last time I was here, I was performing on a TV special hosted by the Muppets, which is a great honor. I grew up on the Muppets, and I had to follow Fozzie Bear. I'll tell you something about Fozzie Bear. He's actually a pretty good comedian. And, well, no, the joke of Fozzie is that he's a bad comedian who also is a bear. But he's actually a great comedian, and then he's got that joke parachute catchphrase, waka, 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 which is his get her done, if you think about it. And so Fozzie's just killing on stage. And even when he's not killing, he's killing. And so I'm watching from the wings of this giant theater, and I'm thinking like, oh no, like this isn't gonna go well for me, for a very specific reason. When people go to see the Muppets, they don't want to see people. They just want to see more Muppets. It's like when you're watching Sesame Street and Gordon and Maria wander in the frame, and you're like, out of there. We want to see more of the creature who lives in the garbage. So Fozzie's killing, and then he's heckled off stage by Stadler and Waldorf. That's the gay couple that lives in the balcony. And if that's not the case, I'm so confused. They go to theater 7 nights a week, and they bitch about everything. I mean, what are the clues here? And so Stadler and Waldorf heckle Fozzie, and then they introduce me, which is an insane precedent for hecklers. This idea that if a heckler defeats the comedian, they're somehow in charge of the show. It's like if a streaker ran onto the baseball field and they just threw him a mitt. They're like, third base, you know, and oh, I don't have a uniform. And so they introduce me, and they're mean, right? That's like their whole game. So one of them goes, this next guy walks in his sleep. Oh yeah, I like sleeping during his act. Ha! Please welcome Mike Birbiglia. And I jog out on stage, and I'm so flustered by being pre-heckled by these surreal puppets that I forgot to bring my stool on stage. And I get to the center, and I look around, and I go, fuck. I'll tell you who doesn't like the word fuck. People who have purchased tickets to see the Muppets and the Muppets. The people in the audience were like, ah! The Muppets were like, I go, sorry about that, and I jog off stage. And I jog back on stage, this time with the stool, but there's nothing I can do to get the audience on my side, because not only am I the guy who cursed during the Muppets, as far as these people know, I'm the guy who curses exclusively on the Muppets. Not even in the context of a joke. I'm just this guy who jogs on stage, says f***, and then jogs off stage. I'm like the villain of the Muppets. I'm like monster, which is what I've been trying to get my wife to call me for years. So I'm bombing on the Muppets, literally the opposite of my childhood dream come true. When I was a kid, I remember thinking like, maybe someday I'll be on the Muppets, but I never thought, maybe someday I'll be on the Muppets, and it's not gonna go so well. After 10 minutes of this, I walk off stage, and I'm defeated, and I'm not making this up, I was consoled by Kermit. Really, he was like, I thought you were good, and I was like, not now, and I just wasn't ready for it, and I just felt so bad, but the more I thought of it, the more I thought, like, maybe I'm being overly prude on behalf of the Muppets. Like, if you think about it, the Muppets have seen a lot. They're like 75 years old. Like, you think when the cameras aren't rolling that Animal doesn't curse? You think Animal's never like, this fucking snare drum sounds like shit. Pretty sure Janice has tried heroin. You know what I mean? Like, you think Janice is never like, Kermit, I am like so fucked up. Can I use your leg to tie off my arm? That's a Muppets heroin joke, and I'm pretty sure if there's a hell, I'm heading there. But I've tried not to curse on stage, but I've released probably 5 comedy albums that don't have the explicit lyrics label on them, but I sometimes I feel conflicted because a lot of comedians I admire most did curse on stage, Richard Pryor and George Carlin, and some of them who famously don't curse are secretly criminals. This is fun for me, just watching 50 people mouth Bill Cosby. Thanks for being on time. You're on time, I'm on time, we're on time people. Round of applause. I think there's a big difference between late people and on-time people. Round of applause if you're a late person, typically. What late people don't understand about us on-time people is that we hate you. And the reason we hate you is it's so easy to be on time. You just have to be early. And early lasts for hours, and on time just lasts a second. And then you're late forever. Late people always try to rebrand. Late, they'll say, I'm fashionably late, which is like saying I'm stylishly racist. Which is another thing about late people. A lot of them are racist. And the reason these late racists drive me crazy is that they're often so good looking. You ever get ready for something with a late person, they look into their closet like it's Narnia. Like it's an infinite well of possibilities. On-time people are just like, this is what I look like. Sorry about that. The reason I know so much about late people is I was raised by 2 of them. My parents are ladies, and when I was a kid, my mom used to pick me up from my swim class at the YMCA 90 minutes after the class. I know, she was like the cable company. Like, I will pick you up between the hours of 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. I was a 10-year-old child just standing on a street corner, dripping wet bathing suit and flip-flops. My mom wasn't on the way. She was at the book club talking about the color purple. I was like, Mom, I am the color purple. One year we went on a family vacation. We left for the airport 45 minutes before our flight took off. We lived 45 minutes away from the airport. My dad shouted at the security guard like it was his fault. This is the 80s when airport security consisted of a high five and a pat in the ass. It was a different time for late people. It was the golden age. And then I married a late person. My wife is a lady, and it's an issue. This week we were heading to yoga, which is why I look excellent and feel excellent. I yearn for the day that doesn't get a laugh. And my wife says to me, she goes, wait for me, I'm not ready yet, which is silly because you don't have to be ready for yoga because all it is trying not to fart while stretching, which is my life already without the stretching. And clearly, I don't belong in yoga. It wasn't designed for male humans. You can tell when the instructor says, I want you to reach your hand back towards your bra strap and then lift up your leg unless you're on your period. I'm like, I'm pretty sure none of that applies to me. I've only had my period once. I'm not even sure that's what that was. instructor feels so bad for me in class, she'll just make up poses. She'll be like, everybody get into the dolphin, and then Mike, we're gonna have you in a gentle turtle, and we'll have you in a sleeping hippopotamus, and then you can just head home. We're not gonna need you anymore. We'll get you the DVD. So my wife says, wait for me, I'm not ready. And I held my ground. I go, I'm not gonna wait for you, because you're a late person, I'm an on-time person. I don't want that getting involved with our marriage, because I feel like it's going really well so far. And she goes, fine, passive-aggressive, classic for late people. And then she says, save a mat next to your mat for me in class. I said, Chloe, her name's Jen. I go, Chloe, I'm not gonna do that because I have more allegiance to my fellow on-time people than I do to you, my own wife. And that didn't go well. And so I get to class and I feel guilty. I put down my mat, and then I put down a mat next to my mat for my wife. And this woman comes up, she goes, do you mind if I put my mat right here? And I was like, no, actually, my wife is gonna... Sometimes I'm so polite, I don't even finish sentences. And this other woman was like, I was like, we were like deferent whales, which is another pose I'm working on. Class fills up, 100% full, wall-to-wall sluts. Except for the empty mat next to my mat, because my wife decided arbitrarily she just wasn't gonna come to class that day. I know, the ultimate late person move. Absence. Class ends, empty mat, all the people can assume is my wife is dead. Or that I've invented the fictional concept of having a wife so I can have a double-wide super mat. The most selfish possible move in the most socialist of exercises. And this woman comes up to me, she goes, I hope your wife is okay. Which is the yoga way of saying, we hate you. But that's just my side of the story. If my wife were here tonight, she'd be like, yeah, but you're not telling them. And I'd be like, excuse me, ma'am, there's a show going on. She'd be escorted out of the building. I've done it before, I'll do it again. That's what I love about jokes. They're just your side of the story. They're your opinion, which isn't to say they're always just opinions. Sometimes they're an externalization of your inner thoughts, and often your inner thoughts are inappropriate. I was at my urologist recently. Just chilling. No, I had a symptom, don't repeat this. I had a thing where, this is embarrassing, when my wife and I would have sex, I would have like a pins and needles sensation in my urethra the moment I would ejaculate, which at first was exciting. At first I thought, oh, maybe this is a new type of orgasm. Maybe I've broken through, but then the pain didn't go away. And I was like, oh no. It's like when you're eating spicy food and you're like, that's hot, that's hot, that's too hot. But it was with my penis, which is much higher stakes than your tongue, which is your mouth penis, in a way. Nobody says that, I just did, and you can if you want. But I mentioned this to my doctor, not in these words, and he's unfazed by it. He goes, it's not a big deal. It's probably just a muscular thing. You're just trying too hard when you have sex. And I said, you're telling me. But I didn't say that, I just thought it. I was just like, you know, and because I don't say a lot of jokes off stage, I just think them. You know, I was like, and he was like, is there something wrong with your head? And I go, no, I'm a comedian. And he goes, you're a comedian? I go, you're a doctor? But I didn't say it, I just thought it. And, but he didn't believe me. He goes, if you're a comedian, how come you're not funny now? What I wanted to say was, I'm gonna take this conversation we're having and then repeat that to strangers. And then that's the joke. You're the joke later. But I didn't say it, I just thought it.
I mean, I could say these jokes, but when you have your pants at your ankles and a rectal thermometer in your butt, you're thinking, this might not be the right time. I feel like we're led to believe this idea that we're all just, in culture, just whipping off jokes at all times. This is a cliche from romantic comedies. Like you walk into a coffee shop and you meet a girl and you're just like, what's in your latte, cum? And she's like, you're hilarious. We should be married in 90 minutes. But in real life, that guy would get arrested or run for president. And like if you think about, sorry about that, by the way, Canada. I can apologize no more times. I'm exhausted from apologizing. But if you think about it, you can't tell jokes in life almost ever. Work or school or the airport is a great example. I read a story where a guy was sneezed on a plane, looked around and he goes, I have Ebola. Not a good joke, I'll tell you why. They landed the plane. They're met by guys in hazmat suits and police, and his defense was, I'm joking, which is always this catch-all defense when people say dumb things. Like, you can't tell jokes at work anymore, because at some point in history, some idiot showed up at work and was like, nice tits, Betsy. And Betsy's like, what? And that guy's like, I'm joking. And the boss is like, oh, no more jokes. Jokes have been ruined by people who aren't good at telling jokes. A joke should never end with, I'm joking, or get her done.